Good morning, everyone. Today, we'd be remiss if we did not make some remarks about the extraordinary historic moment, or many moments, that happened yesterday in Israel. The world's eyes are still fixed on Israel, where President Trump is welcoming home now the last of the hostages who've endured 2 years in Hamas captivity. I thought it was remarkable. I saw a video last night of one of the released hostages who made the point that as soon as the election was held in November in the United States, Hamas began to treat him and his fellow hostages much better. They fed them better, they respected them more, they changed the tone of how they treated them, they no longer spit upon them. As he said in his own words, elections have consequences. And he said or implied that the Hamas was counting on Kamala Harris to win and not President Donald J. Trump. But thankfully for the whole world, that didn't happen. And this is an historic moment. It deserves enormous credit and recognition on the world stage. It's truly, truly historic. For generations, we have aspired to peace in the Middle East, everyone around the world, and now President Trump has delivered it. I'm going to make an announcement today. It's the announcement in the U.S. that was made in the Knesset yesterday. I'm proud to tell you that together with my friend Speaker Ohana of the Israeli Knesset, the equivalent of our Congress, we're going to embark upon a project together to rally speakers and presidents of parliaments around the world so that we will jointly nominate President Donald J. Trump for next year's Nobel Peace Prize. No one has ever deserved that prize more, and that is an objective fact. As Speaker Ohana said before the Knesset yesterday, quote, "Whoever saves one life, it is though he has saved an entire world." That's what some of the rabbis there would say, some of the sages he noted would say. It's an indisputable fact that no president has undertaken the work of saving lives and pursuing peace with such determination and with such remarkable success as President Trump. And under his leadership, we are witnessing the dawn of a new golden age, not just for America, but for the entire free world. The world is changed by these actions and strong leadership. American strength is good for free people around the world, as we say always, and peace through strength is maintained. There will be more to share on this in the weeks ahead, but today marks the start of this effort that we'll embark upon together, this joint parliamentary project, and I'm honored to do it alongside our ally and my counterpart in Israel in leading that effort. Welcome to day 14 of the Democrat government shutdown. It's 2 weeks of Democrats in Congress inflicting untold pain on the American people for nothing other than pure politics, as we've explained at this podium every day of the shutdown. Today, Senate Democrats will have their 8th chance to end this mess by passing our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, the government funding bill that would end all of this immediately. Over 3 weeks ago, the House passed that bill, and you all know the details of it. It is completely clean. There are no policy changes, no partisan riders, no gimmicks or tricks at all. All it does is keep the lights on at the current funding levels for a few extra weeks while we complete the normal appropriations process. Now compare that to the Democrats' counterproposal. They're demanding $1.5 trillion in new spending paid for by American taxpayers. And I want you to be specific. I want us to be specific. I want you to note what that counterproposal includes, because we've not yet gone into all the details of it, because it's large and very absurd. But here's some of the highlights of this. It would reverse common sense reforms that Republicans made in the Working Families Tax Cut that keep illegal aliens off taxpayer-funded health care. This is a fact. Page 57, section 2141 of their counterproposal, as we've been posting everywhere. And it would, they would add the illegal aliens, non-citizens, back to taxpayer-funded benefits. It would cost taxpayers nearly $200 billion. They would also remove a very reasonable and modest work requirement that we put on able-bodied young men with no dependents. As we've said, they should not be riding the wagon and taking Medicaid. That is intended for vulnerable populations, the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, for example, and not young able-bodied men without dependents who are playing video games. We put that into the law because it's common sense. Their counterproposal would reverse that. So taxpayers would be funding them again. They would make in their counterproposal permanent COVID-era Obamacare subsidies without any income caps or any other reforms at all. They would make that permanent. That would cost taxpayers an estimated $358 billion. They would take away the $50 billion that we put into the law to support rural hospitals. They would remove that. And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI+ democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. These are unserious proposals from unserious people, and they are playing games while real Americans are being harmed adversely by the shutdown. Yesterday, I read you an excerpt from President Obama's speech during the 2013 shutdown when he advocated for a clean CR to reopen the government and resume negotiations. It sounded very familiar. Democrats cheered him on back then, including Chuck Schumer. He himself said some Republicans' refusal to support a clean CR back then was, quote, the politics of idiocy. Take him at his word. So yesterday we decided to do a little count of the number of times that Chuck Schumer has supported continuing resolutions just since he became the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in 2017. That number came out to 29 out of 30 continuing resolutions. That's how many times he wholeheartedly, enthusiastically supported CRs enacted into law. That's a 97% support rate. What's changed? Well, this time his job is on the line. And we've explained this very clearly because everybody can see the obvious political motivation here behind his decision to shut the government down right now. He helped us avert a shutdown in March by doing the right thing and supporting virtually the identically same continuing CR that we're offering today. And his radical base went crazy, and they haven't forgiven him for it. That's why Chuck Schumer is opposed to it today. That's what changed. It's very obvious. This government shutdown is plainly and simply an exercise in image rehabilitation. This is an attempt at image rehabilitation for Chuck Schumer. So selfishly, completely about himself, he is shutting the government down to hurt other people. He needs to show a fight against President Trump so he can keep his left base happy through the next election cycle. How do we know that? Well, his record shows the obvious truth about it. Again, look at the numbers. Chuck Schumer supported CRs to help avert a government shutdown 29 out of 30 times as leader of his party. And he emphatically supported every single CR enacted into law since 2017, except for one. And of course, you won't have to do much research to figure out who was in the White House during that time. If you said Donald Trump, you'd be right. And it doesn't take a genius to see that's exactly the same reason why he's doing causing these antics today. So what you'll also notice about the CRs is that they become routine. It's the routine thing to do around here. It's Washington's bad habit. And a CR was meant to be a temporary measure, is meant and designed to just keep the government open and funded for the people while Congress finishes its work on a final budget. And that's not happened in a long time. CRs have become too common. It's the status quo. It's not the way the founders intended for this process to work.